Well, as we continue to celebrate Bays Mountain Park and Planetarium's 50th anniversary, it's also important to take a look back and remember the rich history that happened right here where we are at today. We want to talk a little bit about that history now. We have Marystedman here, one of the Bays Mountain historians, to kind of walk us back in time. Thanks so much for joining us today.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here. It is an amazing history, and it's exciting to have the opportunity with the 50th celebration to talk about so many of the families that lived here long before Bays Mountain became Bays Mountain.
Isn't that cool? And you kind of come at it from a couple of different angles. You have that role in tourism, and then you also have the family aspect. So let's start with the family. Sort of tell me your connection.
Okay, so I married Steve Steadman, Corky Steadman. He's one of the original Steadmans that lived on the mountain. I mean, I say his family is. Back in the early 1800s, it's my understanding that John Nelson Steadman moved here. He was born in 1856, but he moved here in the 1800s from Virginia. And they bought a farm, like 120 acres along, and he married Lizzie Easley, and they raised their 6 children there. And of those 6 children then came, and I have to look at my notes sometimes because I forget, Samuel Patton Steadman, and then he married O.C. Ketron, so that kind of gives you some names.
Quite the tree.
Quite the tree, and they had 10 children, and believe it or not, raised them, and the homestead is still there today. I actually toured it just recently,
wow.
and it's so amazing. They raised those 10 children in a 4-bedroom home, and just to hear the stories of, you know, how life was for them back then and how hard it was, and that's one of the reasons that Harry Steadman wanted to create the Farmstead Museum, because he really wanted these generations today to really be able to appreciate what life was like early on in farming and how they had to live off the resources of the mountain. And it's a great attraction. If you haven't been to it, I really encourage everybody to do so, because we take so much for granted these days with automation and computers. They had none of those things. I mean, they basically raised everything they ate.
Yeah.
I mean, I hear stories of, you know, Mark Steadman was telling me about his uncle. He remembered his Uncle Bob saying that his mother would dry apples on the roof of the barn for 2 and 3 days because she used them in every way she could to prepare meals. She was a quilter. There was nothing that ever went to waste.
Yeah.
They literally used everything and repurposed it for whatever their needs were. And I look at that house and I think there were 4 bedrooms in this little space, and they had 12 people living in this home.
And they did it every day, and that was just the way it was. It was amazing,
you know,
to look
in
back.
so many ways, their lives were so much more simpler, but they're so much more dependent on each other. So basically, they raised those children there, and my father-in-law, Ralph Steadman, was one of those. They actually, most of the siblings went to the Bays Mountain School. Some of you might now hear it referred to it as Piney Flats, but it was Bays Mountain School, 1-room schoolhouse. You know, you hear about those things.
Yeah.
They actually went there, and of course they moved the school back in, I think, 1915 when they built the dam. So it's just, you know, so amazing to really appreciate what some of the early families, I mean, there's Fegans, the Simpsons, as I said, Easleys, Ketrons, so many families that did the same thing. So I want to really make sure and try to feature all of them.
Yeah.
I'm so excited. One of the things we've done of this project is a history project of creating a history website. Called baysmountainhistory.org, and we encourage folks to share with us if we've missed things, because we realize that there's a lot of things that we may have, and we want to make sure and celebrate and promote the history of pre-Bays Mountain, if you will.
So that is a wonderful way to end our interview and channel people over to that website that you recommended, because what a great way to continue to learn, as they have literally dug up so much history so we can learn more about this fascinating area. Hey, we have more coming up as we continue our show live from Bays Mountain Park and Planetarium.